Well, the reality is when it comes to the use of force, each sovereign nation makes its own decision. There's a doctrine which is talked about at the UN called the right to protect. It's the notion that the international community has an obligation to intervene in the case of large humanitarian suffering. But that's a doctrine. It's not really a rule. So it really is the nations to determine for themselves whether it's legitimate or not. Well, I always thought so because when having announced a red line, people then pay attention to whether you enforce it or not. And it's very clear the way the United States has gone into this that it didn't really have a clear intention of what it meant by the red line. So the first thing that happened is after an incident happened, the administration kind of scrambled as to how to respond to that. And in this latest incident, it took several days for the United States to kind of sort through, well, what are options? What are we going to do here? So from my perspective, it was very clear from the beginning that they created a red line, but even themselves, they really weren't sure what that meant. That actually doesn't add stability and deterrence in the international community. Well, that's one of my great concerns is I don't think anybody really knows. When you use force, you should use it for kind of clear, reasonable objectives. In this case, I don't think anybody really understands what happens after we do this. This isn't similar to Libya, where regardless of what they said, the intent is they were going to go and use enough force to tip the military balance to topple the government. I don't think that's what they're planning on doing here. That's certainly not what they're claiming. So it's not going to tip the balance of the civil war. And it's not really clear how countries like Iran and Russia are going to respond to it, or even what it does for the potential to make it more difficult to reach a negotiated settlement later on. Well, I think there is because we don't know. I mean, this one of the problems with the strategy of what's called the incremental use of force, which is we'll use just enough force of what we think we need to get the job done, and if that doesn't work, we'll use a little more, a little more. I mean, that can actually lead to very serious escalations. So in this case, it's really very, very unclear as to what happens next. Which is, if it's just a pinprick punishment strike, the reality is it accomplishes nothing. It really doesn't deter the future use of chemical weapons. It doesn't end the civil war. If it grows into something more than that, then again, how widely does that spread throughout the region? We don't know. That's why you see the volatility and uncertainty in the markets, because markets aren't stupid. They understand that when you go into a period of uncertainty, you don't know where it's going, and that this is clearly sending. This isn't sending a clear signal. This is really kind of opening up a Pandora's box. Obviously, the United States can protect itself in its homeland. Is the United States prepared, in a sense, to escalate this and do more if it doesn't work? And I think the answer to that right now is no.